Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP, and we finally got the Hinman documents, and most of you were right. You said it's not going to push the price of XRP. But however, what it did do is it pointed out that we were right all along. Ethereum got a free pass. It also pointed out a lot of corruption that was going on at the SEC as well. And that's why over the past couple of days, I didn't want to give price predictions, and I didn't want to get you all amped up around it, because I was uncertain on which way it could go. You know, either XRP was going to start to really skyrocket, or this was going to play out the way it did. But at the same time, I did call it a big day because it is a big day. Finally, we got the truth. And in this video, rather than me pushing my opinions, I'm going to share with you two threads. One from Stuart Alderati and the other one from Brad Garlinghouse around the Hinman documents. Because there's people making videos saying, we haven't even seen all the damning evidence yet. Listen, those documents are out there. Brad has seen all the documents. Stuart Alderati has seen all the documents. So let's take a look. It's been 5 years since Bill Hinman gave his infamous speech, and through the SEC lawsuit against Ripple and 7 court orders, we can finally share what happened behind the scenes through the now public emails, drafts of the speech, and this video is a really great video. I'm going to play it for you now.
On June 14, 2018, then SEC Director of Corporation Finance William Hinman gave a high-profile speech where he declared that a token is not a security when it becomes, quote, sufficiently decentralized. But internal emails and documents show that senior SEC officials repeatedly warned Hinman that his speech wasn't true to the law and would greatly confuse the markets even more than they already were. Now, after more than 2 years and 7 court orders, we can finally share some of what we found in the Hinman speech documents. The SEC head of trading and markets warned Hinman that he was making up factors that, quote, go beyond the typical Howey analysis, as in not in the law, and that the speech could lead to not just confusion, but greater confusion on what is a security. Hinman ignored him.
If the network on which the token or coin is to function is sufficiently decentralized, and the purchasers no longer have a reasonable expectation that a person or a group is going to carry out essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts, those assets might not represent an investment contract.
The same official told Hinman he should tie his speech, quote, more closely and explicitly to the Howey analysis. Hinman not only ignored him, but deliberately created factors beyond those identified by the Supreme Court in the Howey case.
I wanted to just note a few things. This list is not meant to be exhaustive, but these are things that we look at.
The SEC's own general counsel warned specifically that it's legally irrelevant if someone retains a stake in a token and is motivated to take action to increase its value, and that Hinman should delete it from the speech. And once again, Hinman ignored them and said without any legal support that it was important to ask.
Has that person or group retained a stake or other interest in the digital asset such that it would be motivated to expend efforts to cause an increase in the value of the digital asset?
Both trading and markets and the general counsel also disagreed with Hinman's belief that if a network was sufficiently decentralized, information asymmetries would no longer exist, noting that a network creator would likely have more information than a retail holder, using Vitalik Buterin as an example. They warned Hinman that by creating this, quote, other category and focusing on information asymmetries, he was exposing a regulatory gap that the SEC may not have the jurisdiction to fill. Again, Hinman ignored them.
As the network becomes more truly decentralized, the ability to even to identify a promoter or to make the requisite, and someone that could actually make the requisite disclosures becomes in many cases difficult or and perhaps much less meaningful.
On June 4th, Hinman wrote that he didn't see a, quote, need to regulate Ether as a security, and set up a call with Ethereum's co-founder Vitalik Buterin later that week to, quote, confirm our understanding. On June 11th, the SEC's own general counsel advised against including any direct statement about Ether in the speech because it would be difficult for the SEC to, quote, take a different position on Ether in the future. The next day, Trading and Markets wrote that the statements about Ether were, quote, likely to create more confusion. Hinman ignored all of them and decided to make headlines, picking winners and losers instead.
Moreover, putting aside the fundraising that accompanied the creation of Ether, based on my understanding of the present state of Ether, the Ethereum network, its decentralized structure, we believe current offers and sales of Ether are not securities transactions.
The emails show that Hinman knew he wasn't following the law. He knew he was making things up, and he knew that his speech would result in greater confusion in an already confused market. But Hinman went ahead with the speech anyway, and the SEC, despite knowing all this, touted the speech repeatedly. The SEC chairman himself pointed market participants to the speech.
Bill Hinman recently outlined the approach we take to evaluate whether a digital asset is a security, and I encourage you to take a look at Bill's speech, which is available on our website.
The SEC knew the speech didn't follow the law. The SEC knew the speech would create greater confusion, and the SEC knew Hinman was making things up. So why is the Hinman speech still on the SEC's website? Why was it ever allowed to be given at all? And why has the SEC pushed a policy of regulation by enforcement, falsely insisting the rules are clear?
We know the rules are not clear. And Bill Hinman just caused more confusion in the market, like they were saying in the video. And that's why I think we are where we are today. And that's why Gary seems to always be bending the law in his favor. And we see that happening still right now. But a lot of people are confused on what's going on at the SEC, because I see people saying, you know, Gary Gensler, look at all the corruption that even back when Hinman was working for him. People need to understand, Gary was not part of this. Gary tried to cover this up, though, and he's still guilty of that. So where do we go from here? I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the thread, because Stuart Alderati said this is where we go from here. So what should happen now? First, remove this speech immediately from the SEC website. An investigation must be conducted to understand what or who influenced Hinman, why conflicts, or at the very least appearances of conflicts, were ignored, and why the SEC touted the speech knowing that it would create greater confusion. And finally, Hinman's speech should never again be invoked in any serious discussion about whether a token is or is not a security. Unelected bureaucrats must faithfully apply the law within the constraints of their jurisdiction. They can't, as Hinman tried, create new laws. Hinman did what Hinman wanted to do because there was money tied to it as well. Hinman literally titled his email Ether Speech, not Market Guidance Speech. We all know that a $15 million speech was specifically for Ethereum. There is no denying it. This is huge. The SEC knew. And you know, we need clear rules moving forward. That's why we see this handful of politicians right now in Washington trying to take the reins at the SEC, because we are at a critical time. I'm doing a second video today. In that video, I'm going to show you exactly why it's so important to continue holding your XRP. So then Brad Garlinghouse had a lot to say. It's absolutely unconscionable that a regulator, when presented with so much pushback on what he was about to say, how he compiled this fake test in the first place, decided to move forward anyway and throw an entire industry into chaos. And that's what's going on inside of crypto. It's chaotic right now. New startup companies don't even know how to expand and grow out. They don't even have any guidance in place. Seeing the depth to which the SEC has essentially weaponized the lack of regulatory clarity through enforcement action since this speech was given, is no surprise that we can call bluff on their claims to just come in and register, and nothing but in bad faith. When Brad Garlinghouse went in there, he was fully transparent, and we all know Brad because we've talked about him in multiple videos. You know, it seems Ripple is very transparent. Brad Garlinghouse is very transparent. So when he went in there, he was acting in that same manner. And guess what happened? We ended up in a lawsuit. For the SEC to sue Chris Larson and me personally for allegedly selling unregistered securities when their own division had deliberately created confusion about this, well, I don't have a single polite word to describe this deplorable political motivated overreach. I won't use the word fraud. I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the precise legal threshold. But I think we can all agree that our government should act with integrity. The SEC, despite the industry asking for clarity, is actively approaching crypto in bad faith. It's not that Gary Gensler doesn't understand crypto. He taught crypto. But now he's working for someone else. Someone else is pulling the strings there. That's why in some videos I even told you, you can't really look at Gary and hate him. Hate the people that are controlling him. And most likely they're controlling him because he's looking on where he's going to go once his job at the SEC ends. And it's going to come to an end, most likely much sooner than he thinks. But you got to look at the politicians behind it, like Elizabeth Warren and that anti-crypto army. Then you got to look at JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, the big banks. Foreign to its mission. Their mission literally starts protecting investors. How is that happening here? It's absolute bad faith, evidenced by the fact that the exact investors they purport to protect are trying to sue them. And we are trying to sue the SEC as well. Take notice, he pointed out to Johnny Deaton. But, they are supposed to protect me and you. And crypto is the greatest invention of our time. It's the greatest technology of our time. It's our one chance as the average person to finally get ours, to get financial freedom. And they're trying to keep us out of it. That's what's really gross about this. These rich people, these rich politicians don't want me and you in crypto. They don't think crypto's good enough for me or you, or we're good enough for crypto. Either way you look at it. But they want us out. They want it to be only for the big banks. Wish I could go in depth now, but we've waited this long, 18 months. I don't want to overstep. Suffice to say, Stuart Alderoty and I believe they were well worth the wait. And I do believe the documents were worth the wait because we were called conspiracy theorists for so long inside the crypto space. Every time you mentioned Ethereum getting a free pass, you were a conspiracy theorist. But now it's conspiracy fact once again, like a lot of things we see going on right now. Deaton, a crypto lawyer, shared that the Hinman documents may not impact the judge's underlying analysis of whether XRP was sold by Ripple as an investment contract or XRP's status in the secondary market in the United States. So we're going to have to wait and see how the judge looks at these documents. But Johnny Deaton and even Stuart Alderoty said these documents may not change the judge's mind either way. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Ripple made new filings to oppose the SEC Gov's summary judgment request. So Ripple Labs Inc. has made more proactive moves to show it still has a strong grip in its legal brawl with the United States SEC. Today, the company made 6 filings, with one prominent filing voicing strong opposition to the request for summary judgment by the market regulator. In the 89-page filing, Ripple shared insights into the many inconsistencies in the argument of the SEC, for which it wanted a summary judgment. Ripple Labs revealed that the market regulator has not to date proven its theories regarding the common enterprise that XRP holders invested in, that XRP token itself is a security, and that the company and its executives are guilty of what it is accusing them of. So Brad is out there saying, listen, they're totally wrong, and they wanted to file another set of 89-page filing. Come on. There's a lot of information in there. But, I think Brad was always right, when he said that 99% of crypto is going to go to zero. And the reason I keep going back to that is because you can see where this is headed in the future. And I think that's where we're headed. I think we're going to be left with a handful of exchanges and a handful of cryptocurrencies when all the dust settles. But I think to get there, it's going to take that win for Ripple to start that whole thing off, like a chain of events to happen. And then Brad goes on to say, using the examples of a diamond purchase, Ripple said that investment in or purchase of this precious stone does not put the investor in a common enterprise with De Beers. Ripple Labs also emphasized that buying the US dollar is not necessarily a gateway into a common enterprise with the US Treasury Department. And us buying XRP does not give us any stake in Ripple. And we can't expect Ripple's actions to enrich us in the future. We're not expecting anything from Ripple, put it that way. And, you know, even though we see Ripple's growth, and I always say that's going to lead to something much bigger with XRP, it's not that Brad is out there selling the idea onto all the retail investors either. I just point out the facts and the growth around Ripple and the growth around your cryptocurrency, the one that me and you hold. But again, it was nice to see these documents come out right now, and it's about time. I thought it was always better sooner to have them than later. And it's nice to see that we finally got there. But again, I didn't want to really amp this whole video up and tell you a whole bunch of nonsense. I felt it was better for me to show it to you coming from Stuart Alderati and Brad Garlinghouse. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.